Good morning, Chief. Can you hear me, sir? Good morning, Chief. Can you hear me? Oh, I see. Okay. Good morning, Chief. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, excellent. My name is Akin. I'll be moderating the session this morning. Thank you for joining us. We're about to go live, and you are our first speaker. Just to note that you are ready in terms of video and audio, and you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So what will happen is you'll probably see a promotional video shortly, and then I will come in to give some opening remarks and just get everybody settled. And then I'll read out your profile.
The Platform Institute invites you to the final masterclass for the year, tagged Party Structure, What It Takes to Effectively Participate in a Political Party in Nigeria. Speakers are political strategist Chief Akin Osuntokun, former director of the PDP presidential campaign in 2011, who also served as political advisor to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and Nigerian lawyer and politician Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed, current senior special assistant on National Social Investment Program to President Muhammadu Buhari. Date Saturday, 20th of November 2021. Time 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This masterclass is free and it is online only. To register, visit theplatformnigeria.org/institute. The Platform Institute is powered by the Covenant Nation.
Good morning and welcome to the Platform Nigeria Institute. My name is Akin, and it's such a pleasure to moderate this session, which promises to be highly engaging and highly informative. It's a masterclass. Now, the Platform Institute is an offshoot of the Platform Nigeria, which is our flagship national development and personal development initiative here at the Covenant Nation, led by our senior pastor, Pastor Bochu Oyemade. The aim of the Platform Institute is to provide you, as a member of the Nigerian populace, the relevant information by which you take informed decisions, informed actions, in order to better participate in the democratic and governance process of our dear country, Nigeria. Now, this is our third and final masterclass for the year. The Platform Masterclasses actually started in July 2021, where we looked at Politics 101, an introduction to active citizenship, active political citizenship. Then we looked at grassroots mobilization, basically how to mobilize a community of citizens for influence and impact in governance. Today, we will turn our light on the Nigerian political system, which is particularly how to effectively participate in a political party in Nigeria. And to do justice to this topic, I have two politically savvy technocrats who have cut their teeth in the two major political parties here in Nigeria. But before I introduce them, I invite you to please feel free to rewatch any of our episodes by searching on YouTube for The Platform NG, or joining this conversation, across our social media channels. Just search for The Platform Nigeria across Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Now, our two speakers for today are Chief Akin Osuntokun, MFR. He is known mostly as a Nigerian political scientist and celebrated journalist who was one-time managing director of the news agency of Nigeria and also political advisor to former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He also led the PDP presidential campaign in terms of directing that campaign back in 2011. Also, you will listen to Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed. Barrister Ahmed is the National Youth Leader of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and he's also a serving Senior Special Assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on the National Social Investment Programs, NSIP. Now, when they are done with their individual presentations, we will then converge into a question and answer panel where you will have the opportunity to ask your questions as we dig deeper into this topic of the political system and how to participate effectively in the Nigerian political structure. So I invite you to please type in your questions in the Q&A section provided, and we will take as many as we can within the allotted time. Once again, join us across our social media channels. Search for The Platform Nigeria across Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. The masterclass is now in session, and our first speaker is Chief Akin Osuntokun, MFR. As I mentioned, Chief Osuntokun is a celebrated Nigerian political strategist and journalist, widely known for his time serving as managing director of the news agency of Nigeria and also as political advisor to former President Obasanjo. He also directed the presidential political campaign of the PDP back in 2011. Chief Osuntokun was awarded the Order of the Member of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, MFR, back in 2006 in recognition for his outstanding citizenship. Chief Osuntokun, you're welcome to the masterclass. The class is now yours.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Well, the topic that you have given me, it's wide-ranging and compelling. But where we need to start from really is what really is the purpose of politics, which the political parties whose purpose is serves and mediate the differences among those contesting for power in a manner that mobilizes, aggregate, and channel those differences in a manner that renders them functional rather than destructive. Now, the practical purpose of politics is the attainment of power. The instrument for realizing this objective is a political party. In the specific experience of Nigeria, the origin of political parties dates to 1923, when the Nigerian National Democratic Party, the NNDP, was formed in 1923 by Ahmed to take advantage of the new Clifford Constitution. The NNDP successfully organized various labor interest groups into a single group and won all the seats in the elections of 1923, 1928, and 1933. Of course, it also had the broader objective of promoting democracy in Nigeria, increasing higher Nigerian participation in the social, economic, and educational development of Nigeria. The party dominated the politics in Lagos until 1938, when the Nigerian youth movement sort of overtook it in the election. The Nigerian youth movement itself then merged with the rump of the NNDP to form the National Council of Nigerian Cities, NCNC, National Council of Nigerians and Cameroon, in 1946, again to take advantage of the Richard's constitution. Subsequently, other parties emerged, but before we go to that, in the way political parties in Nigeria have evolved and emerged has been in response to decolonization and subsequently and more contemporaneously, military disengagement from power. Decolonization and self-determination took root. It was against this background that the first major three political parties after the NCNC, namely the Northern People's Congress, the Action Group, and again the National Council of Nigerian Cities, NCNC, but they originated as cultural groups and agents of quote unquote ethnic self-determination. Now, ethnic self-determination struggles in Nigeria was sort of transformed into Nigerian nationalism. Though they were differentiated among the three dominant regions, the north, the west, and the east, but it was through the agency of these parties, that Nigeria attained independence, and of course, in that manner, assumed the instrument of being the agents of decolonization. Now, as I said, the process was disrupted in 1966, and the military interregnum, military rule, I don't know if it is correct to refer it to interregnum, because until lately, that has been the rule in Nigeria rather than the exception. But the military
Hello, Chief. Can you hear me? Apologies to interrupt you. I think your audio is quite low. Do you want to switch to just the microphone of the laptop without the headset? That may be clearer.
Oh, I'm not savvy.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, so perhaps if you just speak a little louder, then we can achieve a better quality.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right. The military interregnum lasted from 1966, well, in the first instance, from 1966 to 1979, when we had the inauguration of the Second Republic. And more or less, those parties, the political parties that contested the election, and more or less followed the pattern of what we had in the First Republic. They were demarcated largely, across the regional lines, and it was in that form that, well, parties are supposed to unify the country, but what those parties have, or maybe it's a way that it has evolved, it was possible it would have evolved to perform that role. But it started, what was required to become the ruling party, of course, led to what I would call transnational alliances. Transnational alliances between those parties, between the dominant party in the north, maybe the dominant party in the southeast, or the dominant party, in the west. So we had a situation in Nigeria in 1979 that we had a transnational alliance between the National Party of Nigeria, NPN, and the Nigerian People's Party, which was the dominant party in the South. And there was another French party, which was then referred to as the Nigerian People's Party. And then you have the Unity Party of Nigeria, the dominant party in the West, in the Western, what used to be the Western region, forming the opposition. But as you all know, that experiment or that instance soon collapsed, when the military intervened again in the end of 1983. And of course, then we had this another long stretch of military dictatorship from 1984 on to 1998. The process of disengagement, as announced by the military supervisors or the disengaging military power, was aborted. The initial program that was scheduled by President Babangida lasted it started, so to say, effectively in 1987, and it was supposed to mature into the presidential election, which we then see the military turn their backs and return to the barracks. Well, fortunately, it was aborted in 1993, and even more or less before it had any chance to take root. Although there was semi-democratic, quote and unquote, in the states. So it was accepted and terminated in 1993. And then we had another stretch of 5 years until 1998, when the accumulation of the crises generated by the annulment of the 1993 presidential election led to another rather snappy military disengagement process. Within 1 year, in 1998 and 1999, the military rule prioritized the disengagement of the military rule and the commencement of or return to civil democratic rule, which still persists, fortunately, still endures to today. Known as the Fourth Republic, which was inaugurated in 1999. Now, the thing to note about this party is that first,
Chief, apologies for the interruption again. I think we need to solve your audio issues. So our viewers will pause for a few minutes, take a promo, and then come back after we've solved the audio issue, just so that you can have a better experience at this masterclass. Please give us a few minutes. Thank you.
The Platform Institute invites you to the final masterclass for the year, tagged Party Structure, what it takes to effectively participate in a political party in Nigeria. Speakers are political strategist Chief Akin Osuntokun, former director of the PDP presidential campaign in 2011, who also served as political advisor to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and Nigerian lawyer and politician Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed, current senior special assistant on National Social Investment Program to President Muhammadu Buhari. Date Saturday, 20th of November 2021. Time 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This masterclass is free and it is online only. To register, visit theplatformnigeria.org/institute. The Platform Institute is powered by the Covenant Nation.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
The Platform Institute invites you to the final masterclass for the year, tagged Party Structure, What It Takes to Effectively Participate in a Political Party in Nigeria. Speakers are political strategist Chief Akin Osuntokun, former director of the PDP presidential campaign in 2011, who also served as political advisor to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and Nigerian lawyer and politician Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed, current senior special assistant on National Social Investment Program to President Muhammadu Buhari. Date Saturday, 20th of November 2021. Time 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This masterclass is free and it is online only. To register, visit theplatformnigeria.org/institute. The Platform Institute is powered by the Covenant Nation.
Okay, sir. If you're ready, we'll come back to you now and perhaps crave your indulgence to do a recap. Welcome back. This masterclass is actually very important, and that's why we're trying to achieve the right balance here in terms of audio quality. I'll just check that you can hear us loud and clear. We've seen a few chat comments saying you can now hear us. Chief, if we just ask that you please do a recap of the last 10 minutes and then take it up from there. We will adjust the time to capture it. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you.
Welcome. Yes, I was giving a background to the evolution of the Nigerian party system, which effectively commenced in 1923 with the formation of the Nigerian National Democratic Party, NNDP, to take advantage of the default constitution that invited participation from Nigeria in what was called the Nigerian Legislative Council. 4 members were required, and the NNDP contested and won all the 4 seats. It was more or less had the monopoly of the party system was until 1938, when it was dislodged by the Nigerian Youth Movement. The Nigerian Youth Movement then merged with the ROM of the NNDP to form the National Council of Nigerian Citizens to form the NCNC, which took advantage of the Richard Constitution. Eventually, the form that decolonization took place, which was that the British colonialists first, handed or ceded power incrementally. They started at the regional levels, which led to in response to which the 3 political parties that coincided with the geographical boundaries of the 3 regions came into being. The Northern People's Congress, the Action Group in the Western region, the Nigerian National Council of Nigerian Citizens, NCNC, which was dominant in the Southeast. This was the form, in which the party structure, political party system in Nigeria remained essentially all through to the end of the First Republic. Now, at the end of the First Republic, then in the political party system, then became first served as an instrument of decolonization, and subsequently became the instrument of, realizing of implementing the disengagement of the military dictatorship or military rule from power. Now, the first instance of this was in 1970, from 1976 to 1979, in which the military government, after I think 13 years in office, returned the country to civil democratic rule. And of course, the 3 dominant parties more or less replicated the party system, the form of the party system that we had from 1960 to 60, in the First Republic, so to say. It didn't last long before it collapsed. And then ensued another long interregnum of military rule. which we had, up to 1998, unfortunately, we have not had any relapse back into it since the inauguration of the Fourth Republic in 1999. Now, fast forward to the question, the topic specifically that was given to me is what it takes to effectively participate, to exercise membership of Nigerian party. Now, what it takes to effectively participate in a political party in Nigeria, as elsewhere really, is more the task of the political parties themselves rather than that of the individual. Mobilization for participation in a political party is precisely the definition of the role of the party itself. It is a party that mobilizes members for effective participation. But of course, you can now ask the question that what is the meaning of the effective participation that was required? In other words, how do you define and measure effective participation? Effective participation of members from the individual membership standpoint implies that the member with a collective membership has a goal or objective in mind, the realization of which determines its effectiveness. Such goals or objectives tend to be coterminous with those of the party. Example, success in democratic elections and the growth and institutionalization of the party themselves. There are also parties with single item objective, such as I mentioned earlier, the colonization of self-determination, often referred to as nationalist parties. Such parties tend to be self-motivating. In competitive party politics, internal democracy within the party is a condition precedent for effective individual participation, and it is tested in such processes as party primaries and contests for party offices from the world levels to the national level. In contemporary Nigeria, internal democracy within the party is the exception and not the rule. They are circumscribed by such bends as godfatherism and cash and carry politics. Evidence of the lack of effective participation of members can be extrapolated from voter turnout at election. It is counterintuitive, for instance, to have substantial voter turnout elections without a prior effective party membership mobilization. Elections are a reflection of successful party mobilization. Even though Nigerian elections have tended to become predetermined charade, this is a growing culture that has the effect of demobilizing negative backward linkage to the effectiveness of party membership participation. Political party, I've gone through that before. Now, let's use a contemporary example to make the point that I was making. Now, generally, there's a correlation, positive correlation between socioeconomic status and participation in democracy or participatory democracy. The more inequality and the more poverty that prevails in society, the less likely the likelihood that you are going to have effective party membership participation in politics. And so has been the case in Nigeria. But we can use the practical example of the elections that we have had in Nigeria, especially beginning with the last one we had in Anambra State. Now, in the Anambra State, well, it was reported that the governorship election recorded a historic low voter turnout. Only 10% of the registered voters in the state voted during the election. Now, of the 2,446,000 registered voters in Anambra State, as announced by INEC, only 253 254,000 approximately were accredited. In the end, there were only the same number of votes were cast. Now, that means again that only 10% of the registered voters in the state voted during the election. Now, of course, this needs a little bit of interpretation, the data that we have here. First is that preparatory to rigging or whatever it is, perpetrating fraud in the election, the voter register itself or voter registration are uniformly inflated, inflated across board. And so what you have, in the elections tended to be more a reflection of the reality of those who are participating in the elections, more than those who are purported to be purported to be registered voters. The registration of voters or registered voters in Anambra State, as I said, fraud or rigging election begins. Nonetheless, the point still bears making that when we then have this historic voter turnout, reflects who are participating in the election. But let's also look at, we focused, we've spoken to the Anambra State election. But as I said, it is not in the last two electoral cycles, including off-season elections in Nigeria, voter turnout across the country has been lower than 30%, according to official figures. Only a few elections had higher percentages. Some by-elections recorded as low, 3 and 8% voter turnout. Last September, only a quarter of the eligible voters voted in the Edo State governorship election, a historic low, and declined from 32% in 2016. In the Edo State governorship election, where you had quote and unquote 1,800,000 eligible voters, only 32% of them voted. In 2016, the voter turnout was 35.6%. So what we have here really is that scholars have made the study, as I said earlier, that democracy, the effectiveness of participatory democracy is in large extent predicable on the level of per capita income, so to say, and lower inequality, socioeconomic inequality among the citizens. In Nigeria, Nigeria follows this trend, and to that extent, there's nothing more to say about that. Now, Nigeria in a way tended to observe conventions in the breach, rather than in the observance. Political parties in Nigeria today or the only attraction for effective membership has been the utility of those parties, to confer economic advantages or to serve as a way of getting along economically. If you go down to the world level, you are likely going to find that membership of parties is the only attraction for membership of political parties is the economic advantages that it can confer from individual members seeking election. Election times are very happy period for people at the lower economic lower end of the economic ring or the economic ladder. It's when people want to who are contesting for power come around to spend money, and the party at the grassroots level, happily sees this. They await it at their own turn at having a share of the national cake. So the only way you can ginger or stimulate effective membership, party membership in Nigeria today, unfortunately, is more the ability to serve the purpose of a source of income, than as such. But of course, there are individual, there are instances that serves as flashpoints of self-motivating participation. For instance, if again, we can use the Anambra State election. Now, there is an implication. It is anecdotal, it has not been established, that ABGA had an unreaching, alliance with IPOB. Now, IPOB in the Southeast today, IPOB is, of course, the most effective grassroots political machine. And from what we have known of its activities, for instance, the people tended to look up to it now without being motivated by money or cash and carry politics. We have witnessed how people of their own volition tended to be self-motivating whenever they tended to make themselves available by the mobilization and outreach of IPOB. Now, you have the specific instance where the IPOB has asked the people of the Southeast not to go out, and you see compliance with this directive across board. So this is an instance of self-motivating participation in politics. You can translate that, or you can bring that, look at from in the Southwest, for instance, today. Now, people may not like to admit or accept, but the most popular political figure in the Southwest today now is none other than Sunday Igboho. Now, don't focus on the person of Sunday Igboho. You look at what it personifies, and that is the self-determination. Now, one would say that is the most popular, the self-determination is a populist message, generally in the South today. And so anybody that is seen to be a symbol of that is bound to be a very attractive instrument of voter mobilization. Now, what I'm saying is that Sunday Igboho can go to Ekiti today and attract a crowd of maybe upwards of 100,000, 200,000, without needing to spend money, to get them to come and, they do it, enthusiastically. So, these are self-motivating instances of participation. Now, of course, decolonization period or nationalism was also a period like that. If you go back to before Nigeria, realized independence in 1960, people right from the grassroots, were also made themselves available for mobilization and participation. They didn't need to be, they didn't need any positive pressure, or they didn't need, not positive, negative pressure of inducement, to participation in the political process. So you have a situation that also, so there are these flashpoints of, they are not really flash, there are these instances, occasions, in the political history of Nigeria that we have had, the experience of self-motivating mobilization of voters or the the electorate. So by and large, a critical look at the states of the membership of political parties in Nigeria today is you have to first take into consideration that we've not had a sustained period of civil democratic rule in which the characteristics of features of Nigerian political parties can be extrapolated and generalized. Right? You find, and this is why you find that what you call the phenomenon of the recycling of political actors. Those who, if again I give the instance of the example of from the First Republic, when the military decided to disengage from power in 1979, you found that it was the same political leaders, party leaders, or political leaders. You call them, they are recycled. They are the ones who came back to the scene. Now, because to develop party membership, sustain party membership requires an enduring civil democratic rule. If you don't have an enduring civil democratic rule, you are going to have those who were there before will come back, again. As in other words, the purpose of political parties is also, leadership recruitment, across generations. But that can only be performed in a sustained manner if the civil democratic rule endure. To make the point, you can contrast the point I'm making with generational leadership recruitment and renewal in the economic sector. Now you have economic sector players, being successively renewed from generation to generation. You have the examples of people who are not born, when some economic actors were at their peak, they are the leaders today. And today you can talk about people like, in the bank, Agim there, and Ola Adeola. Now, this has been routinized in the economic sector. In other words, from generation to generation, you add leadership, recruitment, and mobilization, but not in the political sector. Well, let me qualify that. Now we have had from 1999 to 2022 years, of sustained political civil democratic rule. So maybe that tendency, that distortion, will start getting rectified. The longer we are able to sustain the present political, the present civil democratic rule, the more the capacity of the political system, and especially the political parties, right, to serve the purpose of leadership recruitment, because it is specifically the role, of the political parties. Nigeria, the media institution in Nigeria today is unique in one respect, and it is in respect that over the years, although again this is being redressed, gradually, but because of the absence of political parties and civil democratic rule, the media in Nigeria has tended to expand its role, to become that of, institutional opposition. And that is because during civil democratic rule, political party activities are banned. So we don't have political parties or civil democratic institutions like the parliament, that can perform the role of institutional opposition. So these are areas where these are, indices or indications of deficiency in the role of political parties, especially in the area of mobilization of the members for participation in the political process. But all again, Nigerians before were hasty, about expectations from the civil democratic group. And then when you get disappointed, there is this recourse to seeking before now of being expectant of military dictatorship intervention. Now again, of course, we have this has been recession, and this has been one of the positives that the Fourth Republic, has recorded. The most delicate point of the sustenance of civil democratic group is when you have a situation of an opposition party, succeeding the party in power. In the history of Africa or most of the third world developing countries, it is at that junction that accidents to civil democratic or abortions occur. Again, to the credit of Nigeria, we overcame that in 2015, where the then opposition group, succeeded, won the election and succeeded President Goodluck Jonathan and the ruling People's Democratic Party. So this is a synopsis, of the effectiveness of individual party membership participation in Nigeria. To recap, I said earlier that it is really, of course, the role of the political party to mobilize people. It is not the role of individuals or individual members, so to say, to mobilize or to participate. There is the instrument through which membership participation is exercised is through the political parties. And it is the political parties that license. The specific role of political parties is that of mobilization. So we have to, if you want to look at effectiveness of membership participation in Nigerian politics, you have to look at that is specifically the role of the political party itself. But membership participation in the poverty of membership participation in political parties, it is a reflection really of the lack of the civil democrat, the political system, to stimulate more engagement or more participation from the citizenry. This is a feature of all low-income countries because there is a correspondence between the status, socio-economic status, and effective participation in the political process. The lower the per capita income, the more pronounced is the lack of participation at the individual level in the political party system. Now, the reality, but if you ask me the question from my own practical experience, is that now to get people to, when you take away the incentive of maybe things like what the IPOP is involving or Sunday is involving, the only way you can get members of political parties, first activate members or even attract members to the party, is through economic inducement, or maybe patronage, from the party in power. But mainly, if we want to look at it from individual participation in Nigeria today, unfortunately, what it takes, to foster that is the ability to respond to the needs, of which, of course, is the economy. I mean, you will have heard that much of the thuggery or banditry in Nigeria today well, that was before we have the phenomena of what is going on presently in the Northwest, is that the talks that were disengaged or demobilized after elections, they are the ones who then, find uses for the instruments that they have acquired. Maybe AK-47. Once the employment and the benefits from the political process of system ceases, after the election cycle, they are disengaged and are then, of course, open to other uses. So this is the problem. It's a saying that the identification of any problem is 50% of the solution that we are required. Now, this is a problem that we have had and identified with the system. It is something that that can only be rectified, not by idealistic recommendations like education or information or things like that, but of course, like a more prosperous economic system. If a man is starving, a man, if poverty is a lot of most Nigerians today, it will be unrealistic to expect them, to have enthusiasm, for political participation. The only way you can induce their enthusiasm, is the incentive of cash and carry politics. Now, I think I'd like to pause. Is unfortunately this model of participating in conferences or seminars is a little bit, for me, is a little bit odd. This kind of thing requires you looking at an audience that you are talking to, so that again, like the topic we are addressing, you have a participatory ambience. But I understand that the reasons that we have to resort to this mode, of having a conference. So I like to pause here, and I hope that during the interactive session, some of the points that I've made here, we can expatiate on them further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Osuntokun.
The Platform Institute invites you to the final masterclass for the year, tagged Party Structure, What It Takes to Effectively Participate in a Political Party in Nigeria. Speakers are political strategist Chief Akin Osuntokun, former director of the PDP presidential campaign in 2011, who also served as political advisor to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and Nigerian lawyer and politician, Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed, current senior special assistant on National Social Investment Program to President Muhammadu Buhari. Date Saturday, 20th of November 2021. Time 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This masterclass is free and it is online only. To register, visit theplatformnigeria.org/institute. The Platform Institute is powered by the Covenant Nation.
Welcome back. This is the Platform Nigeria Institute, and you have just listened to Chief Akin Osuntokun, MFR, Nigerian political strategist and former political advisor to President Olusegun Obasanjo at his time in administration. He took us through the evolution of the Nigerian political system in Nigeria and also gave us some insightful views into the reason why we have the type of political participation and the type of party structures that we have today. We will go deeper during the question and answer session. So I invite you to please continue to type in your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll take as many as we can within the allotted time. Also, please remember to join the conversation by searching across our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Search for the Platform Nigeria, and you can join the conversation there as well. This masterclass and previous masterclasses that we have had will be featured on our YouTube channel. Search for the Platform NG, and you can rewatch them because I believe this is not a one-time listening or a one-time watching, for you to get the best out of this. And so we'll go to our next speaker. We have gone from the People's Democratic Party, and now we're going to the All Progressives Congress, where we will be listening to Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed. Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed is the 7th Senior Special Assistant to the President Muhammadu Buhari, on the National Social Investment Program, NSIP. He's particularly known for his time serving as currently the Deputy Director of Youth at the APC Presidential Campaign Council in 2019. Very recently, in June 2021, he organized the maiden edition of the APC Youth Summit, which was aimed at deepening democratic processes through youth inclusion. That event was declared open by His Excellency, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCON. It also had distinguished speakers there, such as the Senate President, His Excellency Senator Ahmed Lawan, and the Right Honorable Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila. So I turn it over now to Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed. The floor is yours. Can you hear us, Barrister Ismaeel? The floor is yours.
I can. I'm sorry, it went off a bit, so I thought.
I see. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, wow. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Although, when I saw the flyers and who I was going to be speaking after, I thought that was very unfair on me, because you're giving somebody with such humongous level of experience and on behalf or on the side of the PDP, and you bring MEC. I think that was a bit unfair. But hey, I've been called upon to do this. I'm going to do my best to represent myself, my generation, and my party in this. Second of all, when I saw that I have an hour, I said that's a bit too much for me. And like Chief Akin Osuntokun said, I'm not used to this webinar thinking. I still find it a bit confusing. I think physical interaction has a way of giving someone the enthusiasm and the energy that one needs to be able to pull through such discussions. So I don't know. I'm going to say from the onset that probably you would I may need to be forgiven, because I may not be able to exhaust this 1 hour that I have been given, because really, if you can give somebody with the political experience like Chief 45 minutes, I think I should have been given 30 minutes or thereabouts, and then we can dwell more on the interactions. So, talking about what it takes to effectively participate in a political party in Nigeria. And I have listened attentively to the last speaker. And I think I like the way the platform set this up. It's not about, it's not either here nor there. It's about bringing the experiences that we have in our own different political platforms to communicate to people and tell them how it works on our own side and how people can effectively participate with the way things are right now. And I think what everybody would agree, both the last speaker, myself, and so many other people probably that have more experience than I in political party activities, is that most of the way political parties have been run, well, at least since I know what political parties are, in 1999 to date, may not necessarily be the ideal way political parties should be run. And yet, we have to find a way to model through this system and be able to still come out on top by finding out exactly how to effectively participate. So I get questions from a lot of young people wherever I go, either in the office or everywhere else. And sorry, just to make a correction about my introduction, and I think the host introduced me as a deputy director of blah blah blah, but I was in the campaign. I was a campaign presidential council. I'm not the acting national youth leader of the party, and I think that's why actually I'm even invited to this place. So I get a lot of questions from young people, and they come to us and they ask us, how do we participate in this political party in this process? And, you know, so sometimes if I have a lot of time in my hand and latitude, you know, I engage some of these people that are coming from probably private sector or completely informal sectors. And then I give them, I said, okay, so why do you want to be part of the party? Is it because you like the party? Is it because you like somebody in the party? Is it because you like what the policies of the party are? What is it exactly about this party that is attracting you so much that you want to participate? And more often than not, you get answers like, well, I just like the way the party does it. It's just some kind of generic answers without any specificity. Then you know that, you know, somebody is not really clear-headed on why he wants to join the party. He probably wants to join the party because he wants to belong to something, which is okay. It's absolutely fine. Human beings by nature are, you know, an animal, instinctive people that needs to belong to certain things at every occasion. So that's fine. That's what you want, you know. And then the second, you know, most of the other responses I get from people is, no, it's because I like Mr. ABC. So that's also fine, because there needs to be a point of attraction. And that's why political parties go for people who are popular among people, because they would now inadvertently attract other people who are their loyal supporters into those political parties. And you get ranging responses, you know, from people on why they want to join a political party. But hardly would you get a response from someone based on the policies that the party represents. Hardly would you get that kind of response, because more often than not, they probably don't even know what the policies of the party are. I think most of the political parties do not even espouse their own policies. They do not advertise their own policies as much as they should. So people really don't really pay attention to what the policies or the philosophies or the objectives of the parties are. They just want to join the party because maybe the party is the popular party in their local area where they come from, or maybe they have somebody that they like in the party that they want to be part of, or maybe the party is just in power. That's all. Generally, it's in power. They want to belong to a political party, like Chief said, where, you know, sometime down the line, or across, once you go somewhere, you can have a bragging right. You can go and walk up into somebody's office and say, hey, I'm a party member, and I need some sort of political or economic patronage. So there's various reasons why people want to do that. And you can't castigate them one way or another on why, you know, that is their motive. You know, generally people have different motives for doing different things, you know. And so now, if you are an individual who is really interested in participating in the political party, you know, so the question that, you know, I would ask, you know, or, you know, you should ask yourself is why? Why do I want to join this party? What is the reason? What is the attraction? What is attracting me to this party? Why do I want to be part of it? Do I want to be part of it, like I said, because I believe that I can make things better by being a member of the party, by being a leader in the party, by growing in a system of political party? What is it that attracts you to be part of this platform. Once you can honestly and genuinely answer yourself, you know, this is the reason why I want to be part of this political party, then that is the beginning of how you get effectively involved. Because at the end of the day, there will be hits and misses. There will be heartbreaks and heart failures. There will be breakdowns and joyous moments in the journey. But your determination to effectively remain consistent in the game depends largely on why you got in the first place. You know, and if your reasons are trivial or flimsy or emotionally driven by some sort of an individual or group of individuals who belong to that political party for whatever reason, you know, then it's just a matter of time before you get fed up or you move on to another party. You've seen all this, you know, all these people, you know, that jump from one party, they can't simply live without government. So, you know, once this political party is in office, you know, they all rush into this political party. The moment the political party loses power, they move to the new one that has power. You know, people do all that all the time. I wonder why it's not the kind of politics as a young person that I want to go to understand and like and emulate. But I see a lot of people do that with such brazenness. That's as if it's okay, you know, to do that. You know, and then you ask them, why did you leave the other political party? And then people give you all kinds of excuses that, you know, that party has lost it. So, you know, it's just crap. You know, they don't believe that. You don't believe that. You know, the only reason why they left the party is because simply the party do not have the political and the economic patronage to dispense any longer. Well, and for that, at that period of time. And they don't have any qualms going back to that party if it regains its status. You know, so you have to ask yourself, is that the kind of politician you want to be? Is that the kind of political party member you want to be? If that is the case, then you are not looking for a political party. You are just looking for a platform to achieve an aim of either economic empowerment or political empowerment, which in itself is not a bad thing. Every human being is trying to look for something or somewhere to be able to get something, but don't deceive yourself and try to deceive others that you are in this for something other than what you are not in it for. And I think that should be very clear. So effective participation is the sincerity, absolute sincerity to oneself, you know, and sincerity to the fact that, okay, this is why I want to be part of this process. And this is how we're going to get it done. Then, of course, the question of how is, first of all, you know that there's the general legal provisions on how to join a political party. First of all, you have to be of the right age. You have to be, I think there are constitutional provisions. Only political parties that are registered with the INEC have the license, you know, to be platforms for seeking for political offices in a political context. You decide which one you want. They have different names, of course, or you can even set up your own political party. You know, that's how you feel about it. Although I have serious qualms with the way the Electoral Act is designed to make every political party has to be a national political party. I don't understand why that has to be. I think the National Assembly should look into this as well. I tried to bring it to the attention of some of our leaders in the National Assembly, but I think at the time we spoke about it was a bit too late. The debate had gone too far. They were at the conference level, they couldn't come back to insert new provisions. But other than that, my question has always been, why does every political party have to be a national political party? You know, the Electoral Act will tell you that there must be an office in Abuja with offices in all the 36 states of the Federation. That not all political parties ought to be that, if you're asking me. Because in a federal system like Nigeria, I think, you know, if somebody wants to set up a small political party in my state, Kano, for example, and then maybe in his local government in Senyawa, for example, or Kuro or somewhere, and he feels that that is the only place they can set up a political party and run, then I think there should be different categories of political parties. There should be national political parties that requires all these Abuja and 36 offices across the states. And then there should be subscription fees every year to INEC. Political parties should be able to pay subscription fees because INEC is a regulatory body. So you pay subscription fees if you're a national, party, or you pay subscription fee if you're a regional party, or you pay subscription fee accordingly if you're a state party or a local government party. So that in your local government, you can keep winning elections if you are popular. But you know that you cannot contest for governor because you are a local government-based political party. That is a subscription you pay. If you have more members, you grow in terms of strength and philosophy, and you want to participate. You want to participate at the state level, you register to participate at the state level, you fill all the criteria that is needed. And so also is national. But all this concentration that every political party has to be a national political party, I think it defeats a lot of things, because we know at the end of the day, you have a ballot paper that has like 79 political parties, 76 of which all of us know is a waste of time. They are just waiting for an opportunity to be omitted, in the ballot paper so that they can go to court and have the whole election that billions of naira have been spent to conduct to be dissolved by the courts so that somebody will go back and then negotiate. It's a whole cacophony of scam and nonsense that a lot of people just take opportunity and advantage of the loopholes. So I think some of the things that we should be focusing on in terms of regulatory framework in running political parties, so that at the end of the day, any political party standing and fielding a candidate for president, they must have filled criteria that they know it is not a joke to run for president or to conduct an election, at the national level. I think that's just common sense. I don't know why we focus too much on these things. That's one. Two, you have what do you call it? You have political parties that nobody knows how they raise their money. They raise their funds. INEC should have, is not just enough. They have it, I think, in the Electoral Act that parties have to declare how much they get in an election year. A senatorial candidate cannot get more than 10 million, 20 million, 40 million, 100 million. These are things that are not feasible. We know that INEC knows that, the country knows that, National Assembly knows that, because they're the ones who are a member of House of Reps spends a lot more money than a state where another person is running for government. So let's not kid ourselves on how to do these things. What they should put in place is that INEC as a what do you call it? INEC as a regulatory body, as far as I'm concerned, should be able to audit every political party every year, not when it comes to elections. So every year, from the beginning, January to December, every party should go to INEC and say, okay, fine, this is how much we have raised this year. This is what we have spent it on. And this is how we raised it. And INEC should be able to say, okay, fine, you're in our good books. Once you have default in 2 years, you shouldn't be able to participate in the next election year. It's as simple as that. So you put everybody in those parties that would have to look for funding through sources that are clear and transparent, mostly through membership, and then that is when you don't have certain people hijack the party. Because what we have in major political parties like ours and maybe the PDP and other parties that are big, is that you have people who are holding high political offices who are the only ones who can subvent the political party. And once you subvent the political party, what happens is that, those who control the piper, those who pay the piper, control, dictate the tune, of course they will dictate it. So you, who is an ordinary young man or young woman who wants to participate in politics, you are coming in, you have several ways of coming in. One, you can decide to walk up to the party office at your ward level, which is the way it's supposed to be, and they get registered and said, okay, my name is Ismaeel Ahmed, I'm from here, and I want to be a member of this party. you get yourself registered in the party, you get your party card, if it is available at that time, or you get your name in the register. When the party card is available, they'll give it to you. And then from then on, you say, okay, you want to participate in every political meetings or ward meetings that happens. Now, if you are lucky that the party or the ward is a very serious ward in terms of party activities, they will be having meetings. But more often than not, they don't have these ward meetings until some issue comes up. And when an issue comes up, it will not be as if they will call all members of the party in the ward. They will just call the leaders of the party, people holding political positions of leadership in the ward. And then that's the people they will call. And then there will be another caucus called stakeholders, who are former this and former that. And then there will be another ward, another caucus. So at the end of the day, you'll be a member of the party and there will be no actual participation. So I think once you get registered, you should be able to, because it's a lot of work if you want to participate from the ground level up. Because I've noticed that a lot of people want to participate from the top bottom, which is not also bad, because a lot of people have gotten away with it like that. But the natural way, or the ordinary way, or the most preferred way of participating is from the grassroots, and then you register at your ward level. Registers are kept at ward levels. You become a member of the party. You have your card. You try to attend party meetings. Even if there are no party meetings officially called by the officials of the party, what you will try to do as much as possible is knock on doors whenever you have an opportunity and try to organize on yourself. There's nothing stopping you as a party member to call other party members, to host them for one to another, if you have the means to do that. If you don't have the means to do that, what you can do is that you can go to party and make yourself available that, look, if there are any issues or anything that you want help or volunteering, I have a little knowledge on this and that, and then you can be part of that. One thing is that I can assure you is that at the ward level, unless it is an election time or there is a Congress or something that has to do with sharing of money or influence or responsibilities, nobody is really interested at in party activities at the ward level. So if you make yourself available, you will get an opportunity. You will be noticed. They will start soon calling on you, because very few of you people are like that at that level, and then they get you in, and then that's how you start building. Before you know it, it depends on what you're, like I said in the beginning, which is a very, very important question to ask yourself. What is it that you are interested in? If you are interested in just being a member of the party, you have your primary business that you are doing, you want to contribute in the growth of the political party because you want that political party, then it becomes a lot easier for you, because then you do a lot of things your way. You participate, you contribute, you make your time available, you make your resources available at your own will, and they know that you're not looking for anything. If you are interested in growing in the ranks and ladder of the party, which is also very good, you start like that. So once you become a household name within your ward in party activities, then it becomes easier that when it is time for Congress or whatever activity, it's coming up in the local government, your ward will be put into consideration. And once your ward is put into consideration, your name might even come up into consideration to participate at local government level. That's how it starts. Then you go to local government. And once you also play the same role you played at the ward, you become notorious enough for you to represent, to become a member of the state ESCO, whatever it is that you want to be part of, or to run for an election when the time comes. Or sometimes they'll call on you to say, hey, you're the one that have gone to school here, or we, all of us, have not gone to school, and you have participated. Because that is the biggest bragging card of politicians that we love to use all the time, and rightly so. That we have been doing this from the ward level. We are grassroots. We have been doing this. That is just what it means. So it's for you to go and do this. And I'll give you a little secret. During our registration, the APC registration early this year, of course, there was a lot of people that were saying that we need to do it online and stuff like that. But we had a lot of people who had a lot of wisdom in the room. And they were all talking about, no, we should do it manually the way it should be done. And then we can later do the online registration for people who could not go and do it manually. And I was arguing because I was a young person, I was the youngest person myself and my friend, who is the woman leader. We're all talking about, no, in this day and age in 2021, 21st century, it should be online registration only. It shouldn't be who is doing manual registration at this time? Who can go to his ward? We have pandemic, we have this and that. Yes. So we got talking. So after that, we went for a break during that meeting. I think I spoke to one of our leaders in the party, and I was telling him, how can we say that at this age, we cannot sit down in Abuja and just do our registration? We have to force people to go back to their wards. And he said to me, well, I think you're right, but would you also sit down in Abuja and vote when the time comes, either at congresses or general election? I said, no. He said, then what's your point? He said, you are doing yourself a disservice if you insist that you sit down in Abuja, because the whole essence of politics, of democracy is showing up. Is your ability to live where you are, go and get known at the grassroots level as a party member, know your ward chairman, the chairman knows you, when participation comes from the bottom up, not from the top down. If you sit down in Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Kano, or whatever, and say that you are registering, okay, fine, you are registered, your name is there, fine, that's okay. But that's just it. When it is time for congresses, you won't go back home because you don't feel the need to do that. And then it will be left for people who have actually registered on the ground, who are in the wards, that will participate in the congresses. And then they will turn up leaders who will thereby turn up other contestants, nominees for you in the party, that you will start complaining that you have nominees in your parties that cannot stand elections, or that cannot win elections, or cannot represent you very well. Meanwhile, you had an opportunity from the beginning to show up and be part of the process. But you simply didn't, because you want the convenience of sitting at home to register, which is not bad. What we are saying is that because the constitutions of the parties, as we speak today, say that registers are kept at the ward level, go to that ward and get registered. And I thought that was a good idea. So when we came back from the meeting, I said, you know what? We can do the e-registration later, which is exactly what we are doing. So everybody showed up, including President Buhari, who now went to Sekiyare A ward in Daura local government, for example, to get registered. So everybody felt encouraged. The Senate President went, the Vice President went, the Speaker went, leaders of the party, everybody went to his ward. And for the first time, everybody in the world was getting excited that leaders were coming back to their ward to register. And the chairman of the ward would be the one to register you, empowering the party structure from the grassroots. And we also tried to introduce another provision in the constitution of our party that says that every 6 months at least, there should be a grassroots meeting, every ward meeting. Everybody, from the president downward, whoever belongs to the party, no matter how highly placed politically he is, should go back to his ward and sit down in front of his ward chairman, and the ward chairman will preside over a meeting. If you do that every 6 months, you will find out that more people come into the party from the grassroots than leave it, because they know that their governor will come every 6 months and sit down and listen to party members at ward level, or the commissioner who is in charge of whatever it is, or the minister, or the Senate, or the senator, or member of House of Representatives, or the president, or the vice president, or whoever it is that is holding any position will do that. So parties, there are several ways to build strong political platforms and political parties. Policies are one thing. They're supposed to be the bedrock of policies upon which whichever government at whatever level drives the idea of it, or and hold everybody accountable, because ultimately, in the ballot paper that is being presented for election on election day, there's no name or face of any political candidate. It's just a political party logo, a name. So people actually vote political parties. So it is very, very important that political parties are gotten right. And how do we do that? It's when young people and people who are educated and people who have certain knowledge participate at party level. not necessarily holding party positions, not necessarily, what do you call it? Not necessarily just contesting for positions only, either government positions or party positions, but being a member, contributing, attending meetings, organizing people, having volunteer programs, enjoining people to participate at whatever level you feel comfortable with. One thing I've learned about this game, a lot of people ask me, how have you been able to survive as a young person in this game for so long? Well, I've started following President Muhammadu Buhari in 2002 when he was an APP. In 2004, I got really interested, tried to get positions in my ward in Kadu. And a lot of people will tell you that, no, you're bigger than that position, you're a lawyer. By that time, I graduated from university, in 2003, 2004. You're a lawyer now, what are you doing? They go to the state level, no, I was interested in my ward first. Of course, because I was a lawyer, I was educated, I was this and that, they see me as one of those people who can speak English easily. They thought that, no, this is not your ward, they go to local government or go to state. No, I said, no, this is where I want to participate. So, of course, that confers an advantage because there are certain things that they feel that I could do, and they wanted me to represent the ward. So, that gave me an advantage, and then to local government. And then, when we got into CPC, I ran for House of Reps in 2011. So I stayed in and made sure that this is, and one of the things my dad told me, which I will share with you, was when in 2010, when I wanted to run, I asked him that, I wanted to run for office again, and I wanted him to, generally advise me because he has a lot more experience in this game than I do. And the only thing he said to me is that just remain consistent. He said, as much as you wouldn't want to hear this, I'll tell you this. In this game of politics, sometimes, most times, not sometimes, my dad said, consistency is even more important than competence. And I'll repeat, he said to me, consistency sometimes is more important than competence. Because once you are consistent, people can predict you. And once you are predictable, then you can easily be trusted. As opposed to a competent person, that's more like, okay, competent in what? So he told me, remain consistent and be true to yourself. Wherever you go and come, but let them find you where you have said you are. And he gave an example at that time. President Muhammadu Buhari, who was not then a president, but who was running. He said, do you know why he has this multitude of followers and loyalty and fanatics? It's consistency. He has just remained consistent. Simple. There's no two ways about it. So people, those that like him, those that don't like him, they at least know where he is. So it is easy to gravitate towards him. I've learned that. Now it may work for some people, may not work for some people. It certainly has worked for me. So, in essence, what I'm saying, to effectively participate in political party, understand the rules of the game, the constitutional provisions, the electoral acts that gets amended at the annual eve of every election year, and your party constitution, the party you decided to join, hopefully to be APC, whatever party you decide to join, understand the ground rules of it. Once you understand those things, then decide at what point you want your entry point. Do you want to be a grassroots politician that wants to go into the ranks? Or do you want to be somebody who wants to be a policy advisor at a senior level? If that is the case, then what you need to do now is, maybe if you're an educated person who has some sort of prowess for writing, you write, you communicate your ideas, you keep writing into party leaders. At some point, you get invited to say, hey, we've been reading your write-ups on this. Can you come and discuss further with us because we're interested? In our party, we want to set up the Progressive Institute where these things would be espoused. So there are those people who are intellectuals, technocrats, who are think tanks who can participate at that level, either at state or national level. And there are those who want to be, who want to change the system from bottom. And I told you how to do it. You get registered, you participate at the one level, you try to organize and volunteer for several things. Don't be cowed or be deceived by all this, the noise, the brouhaha at the top. If you really want to participate in a political party, actually very few people wants to do the work. So if you are willing to put in the work at the local level, you'll be shocked how much space and latitude you would have to participate and how easily you can be recognized for your contributions, and opportunities will be given to you when the time comes. It may not be what you want at the same immediately, but it will be something that you will take and use it to get what you want ultimately. So I hope that I have been able to communicate a few things. Like I said, I'm not a lecturer. I don't understand how to do this very well, especially if I'm not looking at my audience. And I simply do not have the experience Chief has. So I think it's a very unfair comparison. But the little I have, I'm always willing and happy to share. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed, and I stand corrected, the National Youth Leader of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Indeed, concerning what you just said, by the time we combine your experience with that of Chief Osuntokun, the diversity and the combination of that is the beauty that the Platform Institute Masterclasses bring to the table. I'm glad that you have spoken. I'm glad that we also listened to Chief Osuntokun. And the combination of this, we can then weigh, and decide how to, map out our own strategy to effectively participate in the political structure, of our dear country, Nigeria. Indeed, these were very insightful words. We learned from Chief Osuntokun, about how the socioeconomic status, sort of determines the level of political participation that we find in the country, and we'll come to ask him some of this in terms of digging deeper, into some of those points that he made. But he also talked about, the enduring civil democratic process that we now have, and how that has benefited us, in terms of about 22 years now of, democracy unbroken. Barrister Ismaeel, also spoke about, a few tips that you put out there, and I like one of them where you said the whole essence of politics and democracy is about showing up, and that people vote political parties. So the consistency of your presentation, the consistency of your character says a lot, particularly when trying to get into or participate. You also made a spirited, advocacy for a bottom-up approach to entering into political participation, and also into participating, from the local level in terms of registrations, political party registrations, and all of that. We will now go into a question and answer session. We are good on time, and I believe we can take, very good questions to allow you, our audience, interact with both speakers and get a lot more in terms of, what they have for us. And I will start with our first question here, which basically speaks to what Chief Osuntokun was explaining, where you talked about the socioeconomic status, and how that induces the type of political participation that you find. So, Chief, our first question to you really is, you mentioned, an enduring civil democracy, right? Socioeconomic status, per capita income, as symptoms, or if you like, factors that catalyze political participation in any country. And so the question really is, where we are in Nigeria now, are you saying basically that until we get to say, double-digit GDP growth, or until we pull out, half of the population out of poverty, before we can actually get the political experience and the quality of political participation that we want? Is that it? That's question one. Or pending that time, understanding that growth is a process, what can we do now to make the quality of political participation better, for the benefit of all citizens? You're muted at the moment, Chief. If you just unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, thank you very much. And I also want to thank Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed, for his compliments. And contrary to what you were saying, I think you acquitted yourself very well. So I commend you on the very good presentation. Now, the point about the correlation between socioeconomic status and participation has also a lot to do with when you look at Nigeria, that is reinforced by the fact that there's no ideological differentiation between the parties. The Nigerian politics presently is what is at the pre-ideology level. And so, you have people being motivated by those things that, by individual needs and peculiarities and things like that. So it's not, the problem has been identified, but as I said, there is hardly anything you can do about it. That is the reality that we face. And, politics, it's subject to, it's a part of a system. It cannot be isolated for remedial action, from other, socioeconomic difficulties or developmental problems plaguing the nation. So in the political system that we have, the sort of party participation that we have is a reflection, of a syndrome, that is at large. There's no way you can isolate politics for remedial action. But within that context, there's also the point that, and as Ismaeel said, that every politics is local, and he made a very important point about that you don't have, not all political party issues or political party management must fulfill the national spread criteria. Now, it's possible that you do not wish to, you can have, local issues that you have, like the Catalonian party in Spain, for instance. Now, that their own concern is not about capturing power in Britain, in Spain. It's about Catalonian independence. That's an example. But, and of course, the Anambra election again, I mean, if we want to use a contemporary example, it is not an endorsement of secession to say this, but the what we can derive from the Anambra state politics, as I said earlier, has to do with the kind of sentiments associated with IPOB. Now, don't focus on what you think of Nnamdi Kanu or whatever it is. Now, so, but the popularity at the local level, the thing is, so if you want to, what is applicable right now is local, more local, the local issues, so to say. And of course, the constitution itself, I mean, the Nigerian constitution is not entirely at sync, with politics, with the reality, of the politics of the country. And of course, that started way back when, the First Republic was terminated in 1966. Now, we are regionalism, right? Nigeria, the reality of Nigeria is that Nigeria is inherently a federation, and that tends to lay emphasis, on localization. Right? That is why you have the parties in the Western region before the intervention of the Republic. That's why those parties are relatively more popular than the parties that we have today. The focus on in the southwest, in the western state, there were, when the east, the north, right? Their leaders were authentic leaders. They focus more on regional issues, and so part of what can be done is to look at the constitution itself, and then the process of the registration of party. To look at its constitution with a view to making it reflect the reality of Nigeria and how Nigeria can progress. Now, that is why I said that you cannot take the political system, the political parties in isolation, for remedial attention, without reference to the totality of the system. The truth is that people are more interested in what the local issue, and then you can get more participation, more effective participation, enthusiasm, from the people, when the constitution reflects that, and when the process of registering political parties reflect that. Now you look at the Southwest, you look at you have a mass movement like the OPC. OPC, whatever you may think of it, as cadres, they even pay membership fees. And that is the way you can determine, one way you can determine, the authenticity, the level of enthusiasm is, the commitment, the commitment of paying something, paying your subscription, showing that you have a stake and you are ready to make a sacrifice for what you believe in. So, so these are the areas you want to look at that level. What we have to, the artificiality of the system has to be addressed. And of course, as I said, it also has a constitutional aspect, right? The constitutional structure of the country, right, determines, the political system, determines how the political system operates, and of course, as I say, you have to look at it also from the point of view of localization of issues and things like that. But when you take all that into consideration, although there is still, that lingering issue, that that you cannot wish it away, and it is not specific to Nigeria alone. All across the globe, it's a known scholars, it is a theory that it is a thesis that applies across board, not only in Nigeria alone. That participation in the democratic system, is limited, or can be circumscribed by by inequalities, social, economic inequalities in the system, and the level of poverty. So another way you can look at it is that democracy is more vulnerable, at societies where there is a low per capita income. So democracy is more prone or vulnerable to subversion than otherwise is the case. So that is the having seen that as a problem. Then, of course, as I said, you can look at other areas where mitigation measures can be taken, but it is not isolated to Nigeria. It's not Nigeria alone that suffers. It's across board. That is universal. It's not a Nigerian problem alone. That participation in democracy can be circumscribed, by the level of poverty in the society.
Thank you for clarifying, Chief. Very insightful comments, just expanding on that theory, as you have mentioned. Barrister, I want to ask you this question. There was a point you made about, effective participation, being anchored on sincerity to oneself. And, my question really is then, which is a question we got in the Q&A box here, saying if we were to then be sincere to ourselves, first question, if I cannot find a political party, for instance, with an ideology that aligns with mine, or one that is not predicated on money politics or, exploiting or feeding, if you like, selfish ambitions. The question then is, are you saying I shouldn't participate in politics at all?
No, the answer is no. We're talking about not participating in politics. We're not talking about not participating in politics. We're talking about participating in party politics. There's always room for you to now create another political party. The Constitution allows that. The Electoral Act allows that. It just depends on how many people you can get that aligns with your own thoughts. If you are a minority of the minority, then I guess the best way to participate in it is to just identify one or two people that you personally agree with, not necessarily with the political party, and participate. But if you want to join a political party or set up a political party, two different things. You can set up a political party. Nobody says that you cannot do that. Nobody says that you have to join other people's political party. Nobody says that. That's why I give the option of saying that the National Assembly should start beginning to look at, giving lower cadre, permission for political parties to be set up. So you find people once in a while who just don't believe in any of the ideologies. And like Chief said, really there's no difference in ideologies like that in most of these political parties, because in this country, we are still not above our basic necessities of life. Every political party is basically talking about the same thing. It's about food, water, shelter, education, health, and stuff like that. So it's basically the same thing that we're all talking about. We have not graduated to the level of saying that we have to have differences in saying that in ideology of what, of social ideology. Nobody has time. Well, you're still basically dealing with economic and security issues. So everybody, all the political parties are basically the same. So it depends on what ideology are you looking for? What ideology are you looking for? What is it that you want? And if you feel that none of the political parties represent what you want, and if you can find enough people to set up another political party, why not? Do it and then espouse it and see how popular it can get. But the point is, I believe that in life, in politics, just like in life, you don't get everything you want. You get some things and you use what you have to now get what you want. If you can have enough people join a political party, then you can begin to change the character, the policy, and the ideology of that political party. From within. It is far easier to do it that way than to do it from without. That's my advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's very interesting that you went right into the concept of understanding the ideologies, and this last point about wanting to change the ideology from inside out. You also mentioned that point where Chief also alluded to that we may be in a pre-ideologic state in terms of political party formation in the country. But just to test that theory here, and you must forgive me, Chief and Barrister, for putting you on the spot, but this is a masterclass, and here we like to keep it real, especially because we want you, the audience, to be properly educated and to be properly informed. If you were then to paraphrase or describe the political ideology of Chief, in this case, the People's Democratic Party, and Barrister, in your case, the All Progressives Congress. This question was meant to be our last question, but you touched it so much that I felt we should bring it forward. So if you were to paraphrase or describe the political ideology of the PDP, Chief, and the APC, Barrister, what will that be? And I'll start with Chief Osuntokun.
Well, the ideology of the PDP is, you have to go back to it as it originated at the beginning. As the PDP was Nigerian nationalism. The specific background to the PDP was this group that was formed to fight against military dictatorship. It started as a group of 18. Then I think it became, which was the initial group of 18 was limited to the north. And then it grew to become, I think, 34, group of 34, 36, when it spread upon the country. And then it was headed by the late former Vice President, Alex Ekwem. So it was a nationalist banner. It was a nationalist rally, that saw itself and emerged as the successors to military rule. And military rule that had become so divisive at that point, that was fragmenting Nigeria into. So the PDP started as a nationalist party to inherit power, to fight, of course, against military dictatorship, and then, of course, inherit power and foster, the idea of national integration. There's an aspect of Nigeria that tends towards the evolution of the two-party system. We have a two-party, the military president Ibrahim Babangida actually institutionalized, the two-party system, intended to cross across the cleavages of ethnicity, of religion, of things like that, and unify the country. So that there has been that two-party precedent, which started in 1964 with the formation of OPGA and NNA. And then, of course, each of the republics was tending towards that kind of national integration party. It started in 1964, and then towards the end of the Second Republic, you had a similar thing, PPA and NNA, And then, of course, as I said, President Babangida actually took it a level further by introducing and institutionalizing the two-party system, which he founded, and asked people to join. That is the SDP and NRC. So this was the root from which the formation of the PDP tapped from, that it was kind of a nationalist rally. So if you want to ascribe an identity or a reason to PDP, it will have to be from that origin. Of course, I mean, it has, along the way, things have happened, but in essence, that was what gave rise to PDP. That is the core of PDP. And maybe today it will serve a similar function, in unifying the country. So if you're asking me to what recommends the PDP or to clarify the identity of the party, that is what is the clear, that was the clear origin, that was the identity it sought and acted. But whether it is still, well, there was a need for that at the time. There's still a need for that, but it's not as acute as it was, at the time the PDP, was formed. So in essence, I will ascribe to PDP the nationalist ideology.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Barrister, over to you. The ideology of the APC as you know it.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's always a very, I think, okay, so now this is the definition of our, so to say, ideology, as opposed to not necessarily in comparison to the PDP. But so I will take it up from the angle that Chief mentioned about PDP as well. I will talk about that we are clearly a progressive leaning center-left party who believe in liberal political spaces, opening the political spaces, hence the drive for us to see that direct primaries are inculcated in all political parties where there will be large participation. Or if you look at our left-leaning populist progressive ideas of, say, social investment, for example, of government coming in to help those who cannot help themselves. Those are ideologies that are more practicalized in the way we do, the way some of our policies are being carved out. But if you are looking at it from the historical perspective, you look at all the components that make up of APC today, where they were in 1999, for example, or even before that. You talk about the AD and the ANPP doing alliance in 1999, where they are coming from. Of course, the AD, everybody knows they are also It was made up largely of a group of people who were fighting for the mandate of the 1993 annual June election, 1993 June 1993 annual election. I think some of them were members of that AD that grew up and become real political stakeholders in 1998, 1999. The APP at that time as well was also made up of a huge number of people who were progressive in thinking, mostly from the northern part of the country. So you combine that, there was an alliance in 1999. Of course, in 2002, 2003, President Muhammadu Buhari came into the fray and became our candidate. If you look at all the people that became members of now, then the APP, and we grew up to be, then we moved forward to 2007 when we became ANPP, I think. And then the ACM was also created on the other side from AD, you know, and then slowly it metamorphosed, and then there is convergence of different people coming together and groups who believe in a certain way. Of course, you can never divorce the fact that some people just came in because they felt they have lost out on the other end. They need to come into this end and see whether they can take over power. But that's another matter. Entirely, it is a progressive-leaning center-left political party who believes in open liberalization of political opportunities and government economic empowerment for the downtrodden and the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. Basically, I think you can simplify it as that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Barrister and Chief. You have just done us a very great service, you know, in at least putting, you know, before this masterclass, your understanding of the ideologies of the two political parties. And then we'll leave it to you, viewers, to say if these are different or they are similar, or perhaps, you know, if this is a well-formed ideology or perhaps still in the pre-ideologic state, you know, as we may have proposed in this masterclass. But let's go back to some, you know, let's leave some of the theory and go to some practice now in terms of the practicals. And I'll stick with you, Barrister. The question here is, how do you, there's a question from a gentleman that says, how do you participate in party politics when you do not live in your state of origin? So, you know, you had talked about the state of origin and going back there for registrations. But from a practical point of view now, you do not live in your state of origin, but you want to participate in politics at that ward level. We'll take you first, Barrister, and Chief will also invite you to make some comments on that.
Well, I think that's pretty easy. Most of us don't live in our states of origin. So it depends. Like I said, you know, the question always gets us back to one simple thing. How do you want to participate and at what level do you want to participate? If you want to participate at your ward level, you made that up. You don't have to go back and live there. All you need to do is show up once in a while, make sure that your voice and your hand is being seen. That's the nature of this game. So you go, you get registered, you try to knock on doors and talk to your ward leaders. Communication has made it very easy for you to always be there when an opportunity presents itself. So you can remain in touch with them. So many people that I know do that. I know a lot of people who play very vital roles in their ward and their local governments, and they don't live there, you know. But whenever anything comes up, you always hear their names around because of how much, you know, they try to contribute in terms of not necessarily financial contribution, but whenever there is need for them to do something, they show up and they do it, and they go back to their places of work or residence. So that's pretty easy. So it's how determined you are to show up and do this. And you can also decide to participate from your place of residence. It doesn't have to be a state of origin. I think the Constitution gives you that latitude. You know, once you have lived in a particular place and paid taxes for a number of years, and I think you can participate at any level you want to participate. But unfortunately, in this country, we still play the politics of identity. People always want to identify where you come from originally, all those things. That's fine. If you feel that your heart is where you originate from, I don't know what even that means, but fine. If that's where your heart originates from, or your heart wants to play politics where you originate from, you play it there. If it is where you live, you also play it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Barrister. Chief, do you have any perspectives to that? How do you participate, in politics from your state of origin, even though you don't live there?
Well, first you have to ask yourself the utility of that. What value does it have? What difference does it make? Whether you go back to your roots or where you come from, or you do stay where you are. Now, I'm not sure that what purpose really that will serve. But it is realistic, where, as Ismaeel said, the politics of identity predominates. But I don't see any inherent value in going back to your origin, your ethnic origins to participate in politics. So that's my own attitude. But again, as I said, there's always everywhere a difference between reality and the ideal. That is the reality of Nigeria. And but there's nothing that says that makes it legally mandatory for you to go back to your origin. So I'm not very clear. But as I said, other than acknowledging it as a reality, I don't see any inherent value it adds to the political process.
Thank you. And I like that point. I think you raised the point just now around financing. Barrister Ismaeel, I believe that was your point during your presentation, where you talked about, you made a very spirited advocacy actually for the audit of political parties all year round, or at least annually, and not just at the time of, if you like, general elections. And just trying to understand that point better, because it will, the Constitution actually provides for, an annual audit of political parties, that INEC is able to arrange that and then publish the results of that to the public. So are you saying that perhaps that is not the case at this time? And how then, do we then empower, INEC to achieve that?
I first of all, I don't know if I think there's a provision for audit, but I am not sure that INEC makes it public like that. But whatever it is, if there is a legal provision that already tells INEC to do that, then I think INEC already has all the empowerment it needs legally to carry that out. But I don't think it happens. I have never seen INEC either on their website or on any pages of any newspaper talk about the finances of any political party or the audit report of any political party at the end of the day. Maybe for security reasons or for confidentiality purposes, that may not be allowed for you to say how much a party has raised. Okay, that is fine. But even the party itself ought to be called upon to come and see its own audit report if it's not going to be made public. I don't think that is the practice right now. I know that there's some sort of provision either in the Electoral Act or Constitution, I can't remember which one precisely right now, that empowers INEC to do that. And I think they should take it very, very seriously.
Thank you. Chief, let's still on the issue of finances. And, this is basically just speaking to, your experiences so far. And Barrister, I'll invite you to, put in some word on this question as well. The question here is around financing politics. So it would appear, and many people, this is the general belief, that it takes a war chest, to come into the political party and be of influence. Right now, if we're saying how to effectively participate in political party structure, how deep must my wallet be or my pocket, be to come into this system, and make impact? How can I start? I'm a young person, I may not be earning 6 or 7 or 25 figures, depending on what it is. How do I participate in politics?
Well, war chest or no war chest. The reality again is that, and this is not limited to the developing country, of finance matters. As a matter of fact, in the US, one of the determinants of success is even before the election, even before what the election or whatever it is, the ability of each party to raise funds. Like Trump today, you know, that's one of the strengths of Donald Trump in the US today, that he raises, he attracts his name, his identification with him, you know, is a ready source of, forget about the motives, you know, about why people choose to identify like that, but if it is, you know, a response to the need. I mean, so in the US, as I said, which is, you can't probably get more democratic than that. Money matters, finance matters, and crucially and determined. So, but in Nigeria, you have a situation who pays the piper dictates the tune. Your independence of action, you know, is determined by your financial status, membership of your. So if you are talking about war chest or no war chest, you know, you might amass a war chest to mount a campaign or whatever it is. But as a member of the party, or even as a voter, and this goes back to the point we were making about the correspondence between socioeconomic status and participatory democracy, that finance, the ability to finance your commitment, right, gives you independence of action. You will have heard of the case of a woman in the Anambra State election who refused the inducement of 5,000 naira, you know, to vote for another party and went ahead to vote for Abga. And now it came to my attention because the governor then thought it a very worthy, you know, example. And I think, you know, gave the woman 1 million naira. But the woman was able to resist the inducement of 5,000 naira because to some extent, she has that independence of action, which is guaranteed by the fact that she must have a means of, she doesn't need the 5,000 naira, you know, desperately enough to make, you know, compromise on what she, so that's an example of what we are seeing. So even if you want to mount a campaign, you know, you require what you call war chest. But that does not mean that it is not limited to the, I mean, that doesn't translate that to the fact that you can then use it to totally subvert the system, or because at the other end, it is expected that anybody who has sufficient means of existence that guarantees the independence of action is to that extent, you know, not vulnerable, you know, to the blandishment of the money bags. But take into consideration, of course, that regardless, you don't need money, you don't have to go to need, it doesn't have to do with your capacity to induce people to vote, but your structures, for instance, structures of political campaign, you know, advertisements in the, you know, public relations, goodwill, and so on and so forth. So you need money for that. Those are legitimate requirements. Those are legitimate issues that also require a lot of money. You're going to have a polling agent. If you're contesting the presidency, for instance, you're going to need polling agents all over the polling station in the country. You know, so if you give each polling agent 500 naira or 1,000 naira per day, when you translate that to across the country, you multiply that, you know, what you're going to spend is running into billions of naira. So that is legitimate spending. So even at that level, you know, money still matter. But at the other end, as an individual participant, you know, as a member or as a voter, if you have independence of action, you have independence of action, and that is necessarily guaranteed, you know, by a modicum of independence of financial sustenance.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Barrister, do you have anything to add? Financing and politics, where do I start from? Do I need a war chest?
Well, I don't know about you, but I certainly would need a war chest if I were to go in. But yeah. So I think Chief has said it all really. If you look at the mathematics and the breakdown of how political parties run campaigns and how they run election nights and election day expenses, it's humongous, even the logistics of it, And I know when people talk about money politics, all the thing they think about is buying of votes. No, not necessarily that. That is even an aside. The legitimate logistical expenses of running an election is a nightmare for a lot of people. It's a lot of money. It's if you're running for president, it's a huge country. The only good thing, let me say the easier part is that because, of course, it's not expected that the person would have to spend his own personal resources. That's why you run under a platform of political party. That is because, a lot of things come into place and a lot of stakeholders in their different zones and areas of influence would have to pitch in and do the needful. In my party, for example, we have unit executives. When we say unit executives, that's poly-unit executives. Those are people that need to be funded to make sure that they keep people in line, they bring people out, they get out the vote campaign. It's a lot of money. So let's not kid ourselves. If you want to run for an election, a lot of resources is needed. Now that, and because you have to do primaries before you get to the general election, I'm even talking about the general election. The primaries itself is also a lot of nightmare because, these are party people that if you are not lucky, they will rely on you if you are running for office, and to tell you that everything that they would do if you are running in a small party, you would have to bear the responsibility of doing everything. So a lot of resources involved. There's no sugarcoating that. Some people might be lucky. In their areas, they might have one or two people that will back them up. They might have stakeholders that will say, okay, you are the one that we have chosen, we want you to go and do it. All these things it could happen. But on the larger part, let us just be prepared that these things need a lot of resources to go in. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you. Duly noted. As we turn the corner now, we're rounding up. But just a few more questions to you, just to help us understand this participation better. Barrister, you are now the National Youth Leader of the APC. So this question, is perhaps more appropriate to you. I want to talk about two things: youth in politics, women in politics. And what I basically want to understand from you is, for instance, you just convened the maiden edition of the Youth Summit, the APC Youth Summit. Tell us about that, and what were the outcomes, and how does that connect to youth participating effectively in politics?
Well, thank you very much for this again. I'm not one of those people that believe that youth do not participate in politics in this country. I think that youth have always had opportunity to participate. It just depends on what kind of participation are we talking about. Are we talking about holding the highest political offices? Are we talking about becoming governors? Are we talking about, is that the kind of participation we're talking about? We're talking about participation in terms of electioneering, in terms of campaigns, in terms of being leaders of a political party. Everywhere you go, you have evidences throughout history in this country. And I always tell my colleagues and my friends, young people, that if you look at the average age of Nigerian leaders, be it democratic or military, in the last 60 years of our existence, with the exception of, Obasanjo, second coming in 1999, and President Buhari, second coming in 2015, no other Nigerian leader, well, of course, with the exception of, Chief Ernest Shonekan in 1993 for the interim period that he was there. With the exception of these three people, I don't think there's ever been a Nigerian leader above the age of 60. None. None. From 1960 till 1999. None of them has been above the age of 60. So young people have had opportunity. Now, when we're talking about politics, that yes, because of the longevity, because most of this older generation have got in and have had opportunities at a younger age, and because they have age on that, they stayed up to now and have taken over the space of several generations that came after them. So it becomes difficult now to fight them off but it doesn't have to be a fight between us and them. It has to be just a matter of participation. So a lot of young people are participating in the process, especially joining political parties. In our last registration drive, more than 70% of the people that actually registered for this party are young people. So what we tried to do at the summit, at the Progressive Youth Conference, and it was opened by the president, not the vice president. The vice president was a keynote speaker, but it was opened by the president. What we tried to do was to try to say that, look, this party was about change in 2015, and we got it. 2023 elections is going to be about young people, whether anyone likes it or not. This party needs to change its character and its face and its voice to accommodate young people. So that was what the summit was all about, and everyone in the political hierarchy of the party gave his commitment to that. But we know that it's not going to be easy, because what you are saying is that you are saying that some people are willingly going to leave their spaces for you. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a lot of tug war and determination, a lot of legwork, and there will be a lot of heavy lifting. But it's something that we are willing to do, and I hope that a lot of young people are willing to do as well, to be able to prove our mettle as we go forward, because there's no way that we can progress, and because we're a progressive leaning party, of course, without showing up and doing what is right. And that's why I keep saying that we need to be sincere with ourselves on how and why we want to participate, and then we can discuss on the how. But once we can band ourselves together, you will be shocked how much we can achieve within this political space, and young people are willing to do that. And for the women, I think women have been able to make a case for themselves. Since from the Beijing conference in 1995, to always talk about that 5%, they have gotten into some cases, they have not gotten in some cases. But I think the women participation, it's a bit more limiting, not because of the women themselves, but because of the society we find ourselves. Me, I like to say the truth, because in my party, for example, it's free for a woman to pick up a nomination form and go and run for any office. It's free, and then she pays 50% of the zero amount of money for the expression of interest, and I think she pays 50% for the nomination form. So if a nomination form is 1 million naira, she gets 500,000 naira. A young person pays the 1 million naira, just like everybody else does. But a woman, no matter how rich she is, she gets 50%. But still at that, you find that a lot of women do not come out to run. Why don't they? Because of cultural setbacks. There are some societies whether you, in fact, even if the constitution says give a woman, they'll find somewhere to not give that woman that opportunity, and women will not even come out to give themselves that opportunity. So I think there are a lot of these issues, in some parts of the country, and I think since we know that is a problem already, I think the National Assembly should be able to make up laws that accommodate women in the highest level of participation, without necessarily having them to go through the political process, because fair and square, most of them will not emerge from it. So I think there should be that space opening deliberately by political leaders, to allow women to participate. And I think young people are at a disadvantage in this case, because where a woman is not seen as a direct threat, the older generation always see us as a direct threat. So whether you are young, you know that it's just a matter of time, 5-10 years, you'll be competing with them. So they try to put you down as much as possible. But once we can blend ourselves together, you know, there's no limit to what we can do. So, but I think, you know, the parties are trying, even if it is a face value, to do so many things for young people and for women. But actually, it's entirely up to us to make sure that we drive the process to the end.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Chief, I want to ask this question, you know, as we turn it over to you for concluding remarks. The question here is, you know, back to this issue of ideology, and it seems to be the heated topic of this masterclass. So we're just pacing the questions here in terms of ideology. The one we have now is, how then do you explain cross-carpeting, which we get to see a lot in our political system? That if, you know, politics, you know, at least based on everything we've said here, should be about ideology. And perhaps Barrister Ismaeel had explained that ideally you should join a political system that aligns, or a party that aligns with ideology. Can you then just explain to us what could, you know, for want of words, warrant cross-carpeting as we seem to find it frequently in our political environment?
Well, thank you. Well, I think the core of the problem, or it is self-explanatory, and the fact that the parties are interchangeable. You know, I remember I wrote something called between 6 and half a dozen. Now you see, in reality, from what we have seen, look at APC. Even though my brother there was talking about left-leaning, he has forgotten that about 70% of APC was PDP. You know, so it's difficult under that circumstances to make any difference as such. But that doesn't have to be anathema. It doesn't have to be a serious problem. Now, because as I said, the problem of Nigeria, and even Ismaeel, there is pre-ideology. We are dealing with basic necessity. There is nothing socialistic or capitalistic in providing water, you know, making electricity available and things like that. There is no part that, I mean, we are still that rudimentary level that really precludes kind of ideology. Now, because ideology ought to respond to the reality of a situation. In Nigeria today, more than any other ideology, is a problem, I think, of national integration. There has been so much, a lot of cleavages, unfortunately deepened by our political leader. You even have to have a nation first, you know, before you talk of ideology. Now, in Nigeria today, I don't think we can satisfactorily say that we have a nation. So that is a paramount political aspiration of Nigeria today, nationhood. Is when you have nationhood that then you can confidently proceed to differentiate along ideological lines. So it's not, that is the reality of Nigeria, and not having parties predicated on ideology is not necessarily bad. You know, it is just, because so long as we are grappling successfully with the problems that we have, which are basic and fundamental. And of course, even going back to the nationhood of Nigeria itself, there are things that that's nothing to do with that. If you talk of ideology now, it's a luxury that you cannot afford. I mean, in a situation in which you have people, secessionist talks all over the place, you know, violence, ethnic predicated violence all over the place, religious conflict, and so on and so forth. That has nothing to do with ideology. I mean, it has to do with the crystallization, evolution of the nation first, you know, before you have ideology. You know, the most effective political leadership we have had in Nigeria, by the way, they had nothing to do with ideology, even not to do with nationhood as such. Then I don't see, look, the premier of the northern region has been the most effective utilitarian leader that the North has ever produced. And of course, he did that on a platform of a party called Northern People's Congress. So he was even specifically, you know, identifying with But if you can go beyond that and look at what he was able to deliver, measurable delivery, in terms of making a social, economic impact on society, is by far, the most. You can say the same thing of the Western region and the other and Eastern region. So the point I'm making is that the ideology by then is not an end in itself, and it is not. You just don't pick it in isolation. Of ideology in politics is not Nigeria's problem right now. I mean, an ideology, it's not, but although it allows also for mercenary behavior. In other words, you can, when you lose election or lose primaries or whatever, you can, or motivated by raw power, like what happened in Anambra State. Now, where you had the deputy governor crossing over to the other party, I think the APC. So these are mercenary behaviors. That's nothing to do with ideology. But of course, the lack of, so we are still at the pre-ideology level. There are greater priorities, for Nigerian politics today than ideology. None of that, of course, is, as I said, national integration, national unity, and of course, grappling with the basic necessities. What has ideology got to do with preparing roads, maintaining roads, or attending to the security breakdown? You just need efficiency, not ideology to guide you in doing that. So we have to, but for academic purposes, you can, and of course, to explain errant behavior, of a political leader, when you move from one without any qualms, so let's know precisely the place of our life, other than being in for now, present for academic purposes. Ideology is not applicable to the challenges that face Nigeria today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief. Barrister, over to you for your own final words. And my question to you to help that will be, what is the first step to participating effectively in a political party? What would you advise?
I think I've mentioned that during my presentation. I think the first step is making up your mind. I think that's the first thing. You have to make up your mind, and sincerely so. Make up your mind that you want to participate in a political party. There's a difference between participating in the political process and participating in the political party. You can participate in the political process by simply being a registered voter and voting when the time comes. You don't need to belong to any political party if you don't belong to that, if you don't like the ideology, whatever. But if you want to participate in a political party, then you make up your mind. You choose the political party that you want to be part of. Once you do that, then you can decide at what level you want to be. What's your entry point? Is your entry point at the local level, like I said, at the grassroots level? Is your entry point mid-level at the state level? Or is your entry point at the national level where you think you can participate through policy debates or whatever? Whatever you decide, that is where would be your go-to place first. Preferably, it should be the grassroots level if you really want to be a politician. Like I said, you walk into your state office, and you decide you register at a polling unit, and you start working from there. So that is my thinking of how you can start if you want to start participating in the political process. That's how you start participating in the political party. Now, my final thoughts.
Okay.
My final thought is just basically to say this democracy is here to stay. And I, for example, have chosen, like I was telling one of our leaders in the party, that just how he has grown up to become a general in the military, that is how I want to make a career in politics. I don't believe in all this things that people say that politics should be a second address, there should be a primary address. For me, politics is my primary and my secondary address. It's what I do. It's a career I want to build upon. Once you make up your mind on that, become consistent in what you believe in, push for it, and participate. We have seen how participation have made people that hitherto wouldn't have been anybody's near certain positions, grab it and become what they are. Just become consistent and believe in the growth of this country through democracy, and we can actually make a big difference once we've made up our mind to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barrister. Well, you've heard it all. The first step is to make up your mind. Of course, it's important to show up and be consistent. Align yourself with values or political parties that represent your values, but it is important to show up. There are more important things, if you like, than ideology, depending on how you interpret ideology. Of course, the basic needs of life cannot be separated from the politics that we experience in our country, or indeed the politics that you can experience anywhere in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an honor moderating this session of the Platform Institute Masterclass around how to effectively participate in political party in Nigeria. I invite you to please rewatch this masterclass. It will be on our YouTube channel. Just search for the Platform NG. It will also, you can also rewatch previous editions of the masterclass, particularly Politics 101 and Grassroots Mobilization. This will be the third and the final masterclass for this year, 2021. So please look out across our social media channels for more information about masterclasses in the new year. I would, on behalf of our senior pastor, Pastor Kojo, the convener of the platform and senior pastor of the Covenant Nation, I'd like to appreciate our speakers, Chief Akin Osuntokun, MFR, and Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed for their very insightful discussions, but also to thank you for sticking here with us, listening, engaging, and interacting with this masterclass. Till we meet again, God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Platform Institute invites you to the final masterclass for the year, tagged Party Structure, What It Takes to Effectively Participate in a Political Party in Nigeria. Speakers are political strategist Chief Akin Osuntokun, former director of the PDP presidential campaign in 2011, who also served as political advisor to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and Nigerian lawyer and politician Barrister Ismaeel Ahmed, current senior special assistant on National Social Investment Program to President Muhammadu Buhari. Date Saturday, 20th of November 2021. Time 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This masterclass is free and it is online only. To register, visit theplatformnigeria.org/institute. The Platform Institute is powered by the Covenant Nation.
Recording stopped.